the first time I'm in the park and filming. So thank you very much for your time, Colum.
Welcome.
Is it Colum or Callum?
Callum.
Callum, yes. Where's that name from? Is it English name or?
Apparently, so one of my good friends from university, he's also called Callum, and his mum was telling me it's the Scottish and Irish version of Malcolm, and apparently my version is Irish.
Callum. Oh, I see.
So 2 L's apparently is Irish and 1 L is Scottish, which is ironic because I actually have Scottish in me, not Irish. So.
Yes, I see. Interesting. So we are in Salisbury, which is quite close to Stonehenge. Japanese people knows what Stonehenge is, I think. But so, were you brought up around this area, or is that why?
So this is a really heavily militarised part of the country, and I'm from an army family. So I grew up in North Yorkshire. Then my dad retired from the army down here, and well, look around. It looks nice. Might as well stay.
Beautiful. Yes. And I know we don't have enough time to talk about everything, but maybe in the future we can do online if you have time. So there's quite a few issues that I thought I can talk to you. But first of all, I know you have your work at levels as well. That what do they do, and how come you work there, and what interests you, and why are you a journalist, and why are you a journalist? Maybe you can introduce a little bit of yourself. And
yes, so I'm Callum Smiles. I work for Rebel News in the UK, and so Rebel they do, their slogan is telling the other side of the story. So when you see a lot of things in the mainstream media, as more and more people are waking up to now, they often either don't tell the full truth or tell a complete lie. So at Rebel, we look to tell the other side, which is often the truth. And you know, myself in particular, I'm open to being corrected. If I'm wrong, I'll be the first person to say, okay, I was wrong, and correct it. So at Rebel, we do some of the things that are in some places less popular, but we feel are important. And we're actually now seeing there seems to be a shift with the population where they actually look to get their news from, and fortunately they're starting to look at alternative media.
Yeah, so people are starting to get away from mainstream media, I feel, too, and they are more interested in these independent media, isn't it?
Yes.
How long have you been doing your journalism for?
So not that long actually.
Oh, really?
So I used to be an actor.
Oh, great.
And then during all the pandemic, when lots of the casting directors said, if you're not vaccinated, then you know, don't even think about applying for work. We won't audition you. And I'm quite stubborn anyway. So as soon as like, okay, I don't want to do this, and then they said, well, if you don't do this, you're not going to get that. I thought, well, now you're making me not want to do it even more. So then I started. I've never liked how we can't talk about political or important issues in a civil manner where we can, you know, I may think one thing, you think another, we can have a chat about it, it's all civil. These days, it's, you know, if I believe one thing and you believe another, chances are within 30 seconds, we're swearing at each other.
Oh, do you think so?
A lot of, well, especially in like, you know, in Europe and America. So I set up a company called Frankly Speaking Politics, where I wanted to speak frankly about political issues. And my now producer saw, I actually once in this park, I did, it's like a Stephen Crowder Change My Mind, but I did it here. And I was doing things like that and talking about less common things, or rather things that some people find a bit controversial. And yeah, my producer saw my work and offered me a job at Rebel.
Oh, I see, interesting. Rebel is based in Canada, isn't it?
Yes.
Where there is more sort of, you know, people get arrested or something when they didn't do vaccine or...
Yes, so we thought, some of us in the UK who didn't want to get vaccinated, we thought it was bad in the UK how we were treated, but in Canada
it
looks even worse.
Or Australia, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah, but you know, in Japan, we can't talk about politics at all in serious. So, I used to live here for such a long time. I did my A-levels, I did my university, and I went to master course, and then I was working here in British company. Of course, we have opinions, but we can still at least talk about what Prime Minister said, or we can talk about politics. That's what I thought, and that's what I used to enjoy, going out, talking to friends. Doesn't have to exchange the opinion, but we talks about it, But then, so it's interesting that you say, but it's true that people do argue about it too. But in Japan, it's even worse, that you can't talk about it. You're not really allowed. And you are taught, like, if you talk or think about politics, then you're kind of eliminated from the society. So you're taught by your parents or teachers, no, you shouldn't talk about politics at the public. That sort of things.
We are very much self-censoring. It's like with our own prison wardens in our own prison.
Yes.
And we are. So somebody once showed me this great experiment, and it was about these. So they put 5 monkeys in a cage, and they put a set of ladders and some bananas, and then obviously the monkeys want to go and get the bananas, and then as soon as one tries to climb up, they squirt them all.
Right.
And none of them like it, so they all get angry, and then they try it again, and it happens again. Try it again, it happens again, to the point where the monkeys are now figuring out that when one goes up, they all get punished. So they punish that monkey. So then they take one monkey out and put a new one in. The new one doesn't know the rules of the game. Goes up to get the banana, they attack that monkey. They're not even getting squirted now. So they attack that monkey, and then that monkey learns, oh, if I go to the bananas, you get attacked. And eventually they remove all of them, and it's a completely new set of 5 monkeys that weren't there in the beginning, but all they know is that if you go for the banana, you get attacked. And that seems to be what society's like now.
Especially like LGBT type of issue here.
Yes.
Well, I used to feel, and that's what my British friend says, but if you say like there's only 2 sex in the world, then you're kind of punished. So
the worst person ever.
Isn't it?
You're literally worse than Hitler, these people would say.
Yeah. Now we have, I don't know how, if I can explain to you properly, but we do have LGBT type of issue. We didn't have it maybe 50 years ago, I think. So 20 years ago, when I arrived to this country, so one of my classmates was like, I wouldn't ask him if he's gay or not, type of, communication that we had. But now we don't have much discrimination in Japan for LGBT or anything. We accept anything. But then we actually are creating this law to do with LGBT. When even England, we don't have any laws about LGBT. And now we have a shared toilet. So there's much less female
Gender
toilet.
neutral.
Yeah, exactly. So is there anything like that in UK?
Yeah, so in the UK we have things like, in some places, in the more woke part of the countries, you will see things like gender neutral toilets, and obviously it's the start of Pride Month, where every business pretends like it cares because it gets money. But in the UK, I'd say we're not as bad as America, but from what I've been learning, so we are hopefully bringing out a documentary next week where I'm looking at the sexualization of children and how we are normalizing paedophilia. And actually, when I first started looking at it, I was just looking at basically the sexualization, but actually the gender ideology almost comes hand in hand with all this. So it's, my research went from here to here. And we have, so in the UK, well, the World Health Organization have set out, they've created the framework for what they call CSE, which is Comprehensive Sexuality Education. Now, I'm 28, so I wasn't in school, it wasn't that long ago since I was at school, and we had sex education, which was pretty much about, here's how you clean your bits, and to have a baby, you must have this, and then you can have a baby. That's what makes a baby. Now it's sexuality education. So we are teaching kids from a very young age about the whole idea of being gay, being lesbian, being whatever the new words are. So we are actually now adding a sexuality to the education. We are opening children up to sexual content. They're teaching children to masturbate from a very young age. They are.
I know that's.
So it's horrendous. It's but so many people when you talk about these things, so many people think that's crazy. No, they don't. No way would that happen. But it's all right there. In Wales and England, it's RSE, relationships and sexuality education. In Scotland, it's RHP, relationships, sexual health and parenthood. But they are all CSE. They're all comprehensive sexuality education as set out by the World Health Organization.
Yeah, I know. It's getting really worse, isn't it? What can we do?
Well, exactly. That's one of the things that many of the Welsh parents have asked. Because so recently in Wales, it was passed through the Welsh Parliament that their parents could not opt out their children from these lessons.
Right.
So it's now written in law. The kids have to go there.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. In Scotland, it's a bit different, but Scotland, they do it in another clever way. So in Scotland, they incorporate it. It's called, is it something trans-inclusive education? But if you look up, I'll send you the link if you want. I think it's at TIE Education Scotland. They managed to get it in all lessons. So for example, in maths, there'll be a bit of graph, and some of it will be filled in with the rainbow flag or the current pride flag. And it'll say calculate the area of the pride flag. So it's incorporated into all lessons in Scotland. It's very sneaky.
Yeah, I think in our country too that it's starting to happen. I'm slightly changing the subject. I've seen your quite recent video that you were on the train and you are interviewing people who's doing the protest about the
ULEZ.
Yes, the totalitarian Chinese digital money thingy. I don't know how to call it.
The Chinese social credit system.
Yes, that's right. I thought that's quite amazing. So were you in touch with your people or are you your friends? I don't know how it works.
So interestingly, I already knew one of the women doing it, Nazarene Veronica, and I was saying it would be great if we could come along and actually see you in action, because I'd seen a few videos of her doing it. I was like, it'd be great to actually follow you on the whole way and have a look at everything. Interestingly though, that video appears to be shadow banned by YouTube. So I was looking at a load of our I was looking at a lot of our videos, and you know, some of them we've got 6-figure views, some it's around 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 views, and this one it's under 10.
Yes, I saw, this one was 8,900 or something.
Yes, which doesn't really follow the pattern of all our other videos. So I think the powers that be have...
Well, my channel, I think it's all shadow banned. It used to be seen a lot, but it's really difficult, isn't it? But I thought, you know, what she did or how you filmed her was quite interesting, that we don't really do this in Japan. We don't know how to be, how to protest, or we don't know how to, activist, you know.
Activism.
Yeah, activism, that's the word. Well, only recently, because of Big Pharma, and they will ban my video if I talk about things, you know. Anyway, since then, a lot of Japanese people realize what's going on, but I would say that's probably 1 to 3% of the population. It's much less. But so they have films, or they do some works, they do protest a little bit, you know, but still we need to expand people who realize what's really going on in the world. I'm having difficulty, for example, I am interested in politics, and I think it's very important, you know, to let people know about politics. But on the other hand, those awakened people are only interested in vaccine type of issues. they don't really see in a bigger scale. So what you did on that video, I thought it's amazing.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. I thought it was really refreshing because quite often with protests and activism, it's either one person and a sign in a street, or it's a protest in a town centre. I hadn't seen that sort of activism done ever, and the amount of people they actually reached was incredible. Like, thousands of people went on that one train.
All right.
And at every stop, they do it again. So they'd start at Whitechapel station, and at every stop they'd do their speech again, and they'd hand out leaflets. And then at the next stop, in the next carriage, they'd do it again. Thousands of people saw what they do, and that's not just one day they do it. They do it most days.
How do they found? I mean, to do it every day.
Well, so they often they do it in the evening after work. And
I see. Well, in Japan, maybe train is more tricky because of the laws, as well as it's quite busy. But the way you did it is, I thought it's one of the ways that we can think of doing in Japan. You were also filming somebody talking about the migrants, right? We have migrants issue in England in many different ways. And I've seen lots of Somalian people who came here more than 20 years ago as an asylum, and they stay here. And recently, I think Nigel Farage was telling about the people coming from where? I forgot.
Albania?
Albania, yeah.
That really badly affected war-torn country that people have to escape from. That country, yes.
Yeah. So in Japan, what we have now is quite different because in England, you do accept those migrants. Like you have legal migrants, but on the other hand, you have illegal migrants. But in Japan, it's almost like we are inviting Chinese people, Vietnamese people, and they are paying for it, almost. So they can easily come and they can stay. We don't know where they've gone. So I feel like one of the election was stolen by them, almost. I don't have evidence to provide right now, but so but in England, people are aware of, those issues. But in Japan, people are not really aware of those issues.
Here, some people are aware. Not everyone. So in the mainstream media, they'll show, the camera will be there and it'll show a family running away from something. Now, when I went to France, to Calais and Dunkirk, I saw 2 women, 2 children, thousands of young men. Now, I and many other people in the United Kingdom, if someone needed help, we'd happily help.
Yeah.
It's the Christian thing to do. It's the good thing to do. If somebody needed our help, we would give help. But here we have a lot of people coming to the UK. They will throw their passports away in the Channel. They will pay, it can pay up to £3,000 to get on one of those boats to come over the Channel. And they get to the UK and they go, I'm an asylum seeker. And as the UK is signed up to a UN asylum convention, which we could just leave tomorrow. So questions have to be asked with our politicians as to, why don't you just leave that convention? You could literally just say, we're withdrawing, but we don't. So it costs a lot of money to come over. But once they do that, it's then, because of that convention, up to our government to prove they're not asylum seekers rather than they have to prove they are asylum seekers. So we have a lot more people coming in than we have going out.
Right.
But lots of people think that they are asylum seekers or they're running from a terrible life. As I often point out, because they all get rid of all their documentation and they come over from France, by those standards, they're French. So how can you be an asylum seeker from France?
Yeah, I know. And how do I say? So until recently, I don't think we are experiencing those migrants coming over to Japan or they stay there longer. People don't think it's a problem. But why do you think, or do I think it's a problem that in one country, like England or Japan, both are islands countries, and when there's too much foreigners comes in to leave, why there's a problem, do you think?
A lot don't assimilate. A lot don't take on British values, become part of the community. So that they'll come over in big numbers, and it's almost like, you know, if this is the island and they all just come here, well, this part of the island now just becomes like where they're from, because they've not integrated with the UK. They've not learned our ways, started to take on our traditions. And when they come over in such big numbers, and there's not enough room to spread them out, then they are stuck in their communities, and where they are becomes like where they've come from.
Yes.
And then it's a drain on public funds, public resources. We went to Skegness, where they've got 5 hotels, 5 migrant hotels. They've taken on a government contract to put these hotels in. A foreign investor, ironically, someone who doesn't even live in the area.
In England.
Yeah. And there was a woman a few months ago at a town meeting said, I've been told the earliest dental appointment I can get is next November. Anyone in these hotels, if they wanted a dentist that day, they'd get one that day.
Right. Where are they come from?
So at the moment, the biggest numbers are from Albania and India, but often they've come from Pakistan, Afghanistan. The Albanians have only recently started to come over in big numbers, but from what I've been told, the Albanians now run all the drugs in the UK except for Liverpool.
Exactly, that's what I've heard.
Except for Liverpool.
It's not only that they come here to look for work or to job. Now they have crime together. They've got like crime organization, and they, you know, are making money, but also making British life really in a bad way.
Yeah, the sad thing is, quite often where you have lots of these people put in one place, violent crime goes up, rape goes up. And that's not to say that everyone who comes over is a rapist.
Exactly, it's not.
But the statistics and the facts speak for themselves. Where you do have high amounts of bored single men, rape goes up. And unfortunately, our girls are suffering because of it. And not even just girls. There was a case in Ireland where a 40-year-old male dog walker was gang raped by so-called asylum seekers.
Oh my God, really?
On a dog walk in a park.
Sad.
Terrible. It's the last thing you expect.
Yeah, it's just, you know, we have different culture, customs in each countries, and we have our own. British has their own culture, we have our own culture. So when a bunch of people comes in, they don't really respect or they don't know the rules. So that sort of things happens, I guess.
Yeah, a clash of cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We maybe in the future when I go back to Japan.
Definitely.
Yeah, is that okay? We can
perfect.
maybe talk online. It's really nice to seeing you
And you.
Yes, thank you. I was really like, you know, I came here. I need to do something. So, and I need to get more connections through worldwidely. I don't know how, but then I just contact you this week actually. Thank you for making your time.
More than welcome.
Yes. So it was Calm Smile. Yes.
Calm Smiles.
Yes. So how do we follow you? Do you do Twitter?
On Twitter, it's at @csmiles_news, and then I do a little more stuff on my Frankly Speaking on Instagram. So that's @FranklySpeakingPolitics.
All right. So we should follow that. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.